Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. That way, you'll always stay connected to our stories and never miss the next adventure. The orbital transit hub, known as Meridian Gate, was having what the staff would later describe, in their incident reports, as a situation. That was putting it mildly. What they actually had was a full-blown, pants-wetting, evacuation-worthy crisis. And it all started because someone thought it would be a brilliant idea to transport apex predators through the busiest commercial waypoint in the galaxy during peak rotation hours. Lily stood in the security line, watching the chaos unfold with the kind of detached irritation that only comes from 12 hours of dealing with shipping manifest errors, a missed meal, and the knowledge that her connecting shuttle was leaving in 30 minutes. She was a freight coordinator for Earth Colonial Transport, which meant she spent most of her time arguing with customs officials about whether replacement hydraulic seals constituted hazardous materials, and why, no, she couldn't just teleport the cargo to its destination. She was tired, she was hungry, and she really didn't have time for whatever fresh nightmare was unfolding at the checkpoint ahead. The station itself was impressive, if you were into that sort of thing. Meridian Gate hung in the void like a massive wheel, its spokes lined with docking bays that could accommodate everything from single-pilot scouts to bulk freighters the size of small moons. The interior was a marvel of interspecies cooperation, which was a polite way of saying it was designed by committee, and nobody was entirely happy with the results. The Drell, insectoid creatures with compound eyes and clicking mandibles, ran most of the station operations with the kind of efficiency that made humans look like they were operating in slow motion. The Pelox, with their 4 arms and perpetually nervous demeanor, handled most of the trading and commerce. The Ethi, crystalline beings who communicated through harmonics that made your teeth ache, served as diplomats and peacekeepers. And then there were the humans, who mostly just tried not to break anything expensive. The terminal where Lily waited was packed with travelers from a dozen different species, all of them now pressing themselves against the far walls and eyeing the security checkpoint like it might explode, which, given what was happening, wasn't entirely unreasonable. 2 massive containment crates sat in the middle of the processing area, and whatever was inside them was not happy about it. The crates were shaking, actual visible shaking, and the sounds coming from within were the kind that triggered every prey instinct evolution had spent millions of years perfecting. A diplomatic envoy from the fringe worlds stood nearby, looking like they were reconsidering every life choice that had led to this moment. The envoy's handler, an Ethi named Phala, was cycling through color patterns so rapidly that Lily's eyes hurt just looking at her. The crystalline alien was trying to communicate with station security, while simultaneously keeping her distance from the crates, which was a neat trick. "They're juveniles," Phala was saying, her voice coming through the universal translator with that odd musical quality all Ethi speech had. "They shouldn't be reacting this way." The sedation protocols were followed exactly. Juveniles of what? The security chief, a Pelox named Orimdesh, had all 4 of his arms spread in what Lily recognized as a defensive posture. His skin had gone a pale shade of green that definitely wasn't healthy. "Rakthi," Phala said quietly. The word rippled through the crowd like a shock wave. Lily saw a group of Drell guards actually take a step backward, which was saying something because Drell didn't typically back down from anything. A Pelix merchant near Lily made a sound that the translator helpfully interpreted as profound existential dread. Rakthi, right. Lily had heard of them, mostly in the context of Death World apex predators that will absolutely murder you and everything you love. They came from a planet where the atmosphere was barely breathable, and everything with teeth tried to eat everything else. The galactic community had classified their homeworld as inadvisable for colonization, and, seriously, just don't. And now there were two of them, apparently, sitting in crates about 20 meters from where Lily wanted to catch her shuttle. One of the crates buckled. Not broke, but definitely buckled, the reinforced plating denting outward with a screech of stressed metal that made everyone in the terminal flinch. "We need armed response," Orimdesh was saying into his communicator, his voice climbing an octave. "No, I don't care if they're juveniles. Do you know what a juvenile Rakthi can do? They have documented kills of— Yes, I'll wait." He did not sound like he wanted to wait. Phala was wringing her crystalline hands, which created a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. "The containment fields are failing. Something's wrong. They shouldn't be able to affect the fields like this. They're designed for normal cargo," Orimdesh snapped. "Not for creatures that can bite through starship hull plating." "That's an exaggeration." "Is it?" Orimdesh gestured with two of his arms at the buckling crate. "Because it really doesn't look like an exaggeration right now." More guards were arriving, armed with what Lily recognized as neural disruptors. Someone in the crowd suggested venting the terminal section, which seemed a bit extreme, but also not entirely out of proportion to the general panic level. The universal translators were picking up sounds from inside the crates now, translating them into words that scrolled across nearby display screens. Threat, danger, not safe, afraid, afraid. Lily blinked, reading the words again. The translators were interpreting the Rakthi vocalizations as expressions of fear, not aggression. She looked around the terminal. Every single alien present was radiating terror. The Drell were clicking their mandibles in distress patterns. The Pelaks were turning colors that probably had technical names, but basically translated to, "Please don't eat me." Even the Ethi, who didn't technically have facial expressions, were pulsing with anxious light. And all of that fear, all of those panic pheromones and stress hormones and whatever else aliens produced when they were scared, was flooding into an enclosed space where two juvenile predators were locked in crates, disoriented and confused. Of course, they were freaking out. Everything around them was screaming danger in every biochemical language evolution had invented. Lily glanced at her timepiece. 28 minutes until her shuttle departed. She looked at the guards setting up a perimeter, at Phala, who was now openly weeping in harmonic frequencies, at Orimdesh, who was arguing with someone over the communicator about whether they had authorization to use lethal force on diplomatic cargo. She looked at the crates, which had gone ominously quiet. And then Lily did what humans have been doing since they first decided that wolves might make decent companions. She made a decision that every other species in the galaxy would classify as suicidally stupid. She walked toward the crates. "Hey!" Orimdesh's shout cut through the terminal noise. "Civilian! Stop right there!" Lily kept walking. Behind her, she could hear the crowd murmuring in confusion and alarm. Ahead, she could see the guards raising their weapons, unsure whether to stop her or prepare for whatever was about to happen. "You can't go near them," Orimdesh was saying, two of his arms reaching out to physically stop her. "Those are Rakthi. Do you understand what that means?" "It means they're scared," Lily said, sidestepping his grab with the ease of someone who'd spent years dodging cargo loaders in tight spaces. "And everyone here is making it worse. They're not scared. They're predators." "They're both," Lily said. "And right now, the scared part is winning." Phala made a sound like crystal breaking. "Please, you don't understand. Rakthi have killed trained handlers. These juveniles could tear through reinforced plating. If they perceive you as a threat, then I won't be a threat, Lily said simply. She was now less than 5 meters from the crates. This close, she could see the scoring on the metal where claws had raked against the interior. The containment fields were flickering, barely holding. Through the ventilation slats, she could see movement and the faint glow of bioluminescent patterns. Red. The patterns were red, which even Lily knew meant aggression or alarm. The crates suddenly erupted with sound. Not the earlier distress calls, but full-throated roars that made the deck plates vibrate. Whatever was inside threw itself against the barriers with enough force that one of the crates actually slid 1/2 meter across the floor. Every instinct Lily possessed, millions of years of evolutionary programming, was screaming at her to run. Her heart was hammering. Her hands were shaking. She stopped walking, crouched down to make herself smaller, and, in a voice that was equal parts command and calm, said, "Enough." Not shouted, not whispered, just firm. The way her mother had spoken when Lily and her siblings got too rowdy. The way you talk to a dog that was barking at shadows. The roaring stopped. The entire terminal went silent. Lily could hear her own heartbeat, could hear the hum of the station's life support systems, could hear someone behind her breathing in short, panicked gasps. She stayed crouched, keeping her eyes on the crates, but not staring directly at them. "Okay," she said, keeping her voice low and steady. "I know you're scared. I know everything here is loud and weird and smells wrong. But you're safe. Nobody's going to hurt you." One of the crates shifted slightly, and Lily heard a sound that the translator struggled with before finally settling on query, uncertain. "That's right," Lily continued, as if she was having a normal conversation and not talking to apex predators through reinforced containment crates. "All these nice aliens are just trying to do their jobs. They're not threatening you. They're scared of you, which I know probably doesn't help. But that's what's happening." Another sound, this one translated as confusion, analysis. "Yeah, I'm human," Lily said, guessing at what they might be picking up from her scent or voice. "We're the weird ones who adopted wolves and thought that was a good idea. So you and me, we're going to figure this out, okay?" Behind her, someone, probably Orimdesh, made a strangled sound. Lily ignored him. "Here's what's going to happen. These crates are making you feel trapped, and that's not okay. So we're going to open them. But you need to promise me you're not going to freak out and eat anyone, because that would be really inconvenient for everyone involved." Silence. Then, slowly, a sound that the translator interpreted as agreement, conditional. Lily stood up carefully and turned to face Orimdesh, who looked like he was having a medical emergency. "Open the crates." "Absolutely not. They're more dangerous trapped and panicking than they would be calm and mobile," Lily said. "And right now, they're about 3 seconds from tearing through those containment fields anyway. So you can open the crates in a controlled manner, or you can wait for them to break free on their own terms. Your choice." Fella drifted forward, her crystalline form pulsing with uncertain colors. "If they attack—" "They won't," Lily said, with far more confidence than she felt. "Not if we stop acting like they're about to murder us." "But they might," Orimdesh said weakly. "So might I, if I'm being honest," Lily replied. "I'm about to miss my shuttle. I haven't eaten since yesterday, and I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. But you don't see me locked in a crate." The security chief stared at her for a long moment, cycling through what Lily assumed were the stages of grief. Finally, he gestured to one of his guards. "Release the containment locks, slowly. And keep your weapons ready." "Weapons down," Lily said sharply. They'll read that as a threat. This is insane. This is happening, Lily said. Now lower the weapons, or I'm filing a formal complaint about shipping delays and inadequate cargo handling procedures. You know how much paperwork that involves? Orimdesh's skin went even paler. Apparently, bureaucratic threats were more effective than predators. The locks on the first crate disengaged with a hiss of releasing pressure. The door swung open slowly, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then a head emerged. Then another. And Lily got her first real look at Rakthi juveniles. They were beautiful, in the way that apex predators are beautiful when they're not actively trying to kill you. About the size of large earth dogs, but built like someone had crossed a velociraptor with a panther and given the result a sense of dramatic flair. 6 legs, each ending in retractable claws that looked like they could shred titanium. Scales that caught the light, ranging from deep charcoal to gunmetal gray. And along their spines, bioluminescent patterns that currently pulsed a wary orange. Their eyes were the worst part, or the best part, depending on your perspective. Intelligent. Far too intelligent. They looked at Lily with an assessment that was definitely calculating threat levels and probability of survival. The first one, slightly larger with darker scales, took a cautious step forward. Then another. It circled Lily once, staying just out of arm's reach, its head lowered and those luminescent patterns shifting through colors too quickly to track. The second one, lighter scales with a distinctive pattern that reminded Lily of embers in a dying fire, followed its companion but stayed closer to the crate, watching. Lily didn't move, didn't speak, just let them get her scent, let them assess her as a potential threat or not threat. The darker one completed its circle and sat down. Just sat, like a dog waiting for a command. The lighter one, after a moment's hesitation, did the same. And then they both settled down on either side of Lily's boots, their luminescent patterns fading to a soft amber that the translator helpfully noted meant contentment, security. One of them started making a sound that rumbled through the deck plates. The translator struggled for a moment before displaying purring, satisfaction, pack-bonding behavior. The terminal remained absolutely silent. Lily looked down at the 2 apex predators flanking her boots like they were puppies who'd found their person, and thought, this is going to make my shuttle situation even more complicated. Orimdesh was staring at Lily like she'd just performed a magic trick that violated the fundamental laws of physics, which, from his perspective, she probably had. His 4 arms hung limp at his sides, and his skin had gone from pale green to something that looked like old cheese. How? He managed finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Did you do that? Lily shrugged, careful not to disturb the 2 Rakthi, currently treating her boots like the world's most dangerous security blankets. I asked nicely? You asked nicely, Orimdesh repeated, his translator adding what sounded like hysterical laughter to the end of the phrase. They're scared animals, Lily said, keeping her voice calm and even. Not monsters. There's a difference. Phala drifted closer, her crystalline structure pulsing with colors that Lily's translator interpreted as profound confusion mixed with academic fascination. This shouldn't be possible. Rakthi don't bond with non-Rakthi. They certainly don't submit to verbal commands from species they've never encountered. Maybe they just needed someone who wasn't terrified of them, Lily suggested. She looked down at the darker cub, who was watching her with those unsettling, intelligent eyes. What happens to them now? Phala's colors shifted to something sadder, deeper blues mixing with grays. They're being transported to a xenobiology research facility. 3 station jumps from here. We had a handler assigned, but they became ill at the last moment and couldn't make the journey. And you thought putting them in crates and sedating them was the solution. Standard protocol for dangerous cargo. They're not cargo, Lily interrupted. They're living things. Look at them. She gestured at the cubs, who were now watching the conversation with obvious interest, their head tilting in unison. Does that look like mindless cargo to you? The lighter cub made a sound that the translator rendered as, "Query, food?" Despite everything, Lily smiled. "See, practical concerns. When did they last eat?" Fella checked a data pad with trembling, crystalline fingers. 6 hours ago. They're due for another feeding in 2 hours. Right. Lily looked at Orimdesh, who was still processing the fact that he was alive and uneaten. I need to reroute my travel. Where's this research facility? You can't be serious, the security chief said. Dead serious. These two can't travel in those crates anymore, not without causing another incident. And apparently, they've decided I'm acceptable company. Lily glanced at her timepiece. I was heading toward the outer ring anyway. It's not that far out of my way. You're volunteering to escort Rakthi cubs across 3 station jumps, Orimdesh said slowly, as if saying it out loud might make her realize how insane that sounded. Someone has to, Lily replied. Besides, they clearly can't handle your standard security protocols. No offense. Some taken, Orimdesh muttered, but he was already pulling up transport manifests on his data pad. Fela was pulsing through so many colors she looked like a disco ball having an identity crisis. This is highly irregular. There are protocols, procedures, insurance requirements. Then fill out the paperwork, Lily said. But do it fast, because I'm pretty sure these two are getting restless, and I really don't want to find out what happens when hungry Rakthi cubs get bored. As if to emphasize her point, the darker cub stood and stretched, its spine popping in a way that sounded distinctly unnatural. The lighter one yawned, displaying rows of teeth that could definitely tear through hull plating. Every guard in the terminal tensed. Easy, Lily said, not to the guards, but to the cubs. Nobody's threatening you, just a bunch of nervous aliens trying to figure out logistics. The darker cub sat back down, its luminescent patterns shifting to what Lily was starting to recognize as their default everything's fine amber glow. I need names for them, Lily said suddenly. Can't keep calling them the Cubs for 3 station jumps. They have designation codes, Fela started. Names, Lily insisted. She studied them both. The darker one, solid and protective. The lighter one, curious and watchful. Flint, she said, pointing to the darker cub. And Ember, nodding to the lighter one. Both cubs' patterns flared brighter, cycling through colors before settling on a pleased amber gold. I think they approve, Lily said. By the time Lily boarded the passenger liner called the Prosperity Ring, the story had already gone viral on the galactic net. Apparently, watching a human casually domesticate apex predators in a matter of minutes was the kind of content that broke through species barriers and united the galaxy in collective disbelief. Her communicator had been buzzing non-stop with messages from people she hadn't talked to in years, all of them asking variations of, "Are you insane?" and "How are you still alive?" She'd turned off notifications after the 15th inquiry. Flint and Ember walked beside her through the boarding corridor, now fitted with ceremonial harnesses per diplomatic protocol. The harnesses were decorative, supposedly marking them as protected cargo under interstellar treaty. But Lily suspected they were really just there to make other passengers feel slightly less terrified. It wasn't working. The main passenger deck cleared like someone had announced a hull breach. Travelers pressed themselves against walls, climbed onto seats, and generally treated Lily's arrival like she was escorting a pair of walking natural disasters. Which technically she was. The only exceptions were the other humans on board, of course. A maintenance tech from Earth actually approached and asked if he could pet the space puppies, which Lily declined on the grounds that she wasn't entirely sure how Flint and Ember would react to strangers yet. "But they're so cute," the tech protested, even as Ember fixed him with a stare that could probably calculate exactly how many bites it would take to reach vital organs. "They're also carnivores with a bite force that can crack starship plating," Lily pointed out. "Yeah, but look at the little glowy bits on their backs," the tech said, as if bioluminescent patterns somehow negated the danger factor. Lily had to admit other humans did have a point about the cute factor. When Flint and Ember weren't actively trying to intimidate people, they had a certain charm. The way Ember's tail curled when she was curious, or how Flint would tilt his head when processing new information, was genuinely endearing if you could get past the whole apex predator thing. She found her assigned cabin, a modest space with 2 bunks and a small sitting area. The ship's quartermaster had helpfully provided extra padding on the floor and what looked like industrial-strength chew toys, which suggested someone had actually read up on Rakthi behavior. Flint immediately claimed one corner of the cabin, circling 3 times before settling down like a cat. Ember investigated every surface, sniffing and occasionally scraping her claws against things to test their durability. "Don't break anything," Lily said, unpacking her travel bag. "This is a rental, and I'm not explaining property damage to the insurance company." Ember made a sound that the translator interpreted as acknowledgement, no promises. Fantastic. A chime at the door announced a visitor. Lily opened it to find Phala hovering in the corridor, her crystalline structure pulsing with nervous energy. "May I come in?" the Ethi asked. Lily stepped aside, and Phala drifted into the cabin. Both cubs raised their heads, patterns shifting to alert orange, before Lily made a calming gesture, and they settled back down. "We need to talk," Phala said, her harmonic voice carrying undertones that the translator marked as serious, concerned. "About?" "About why I'm really transporting these cubs." Phala settled into a chair, which was interesting to watch since she didn't technically sit so much as hover in a sitting position. "And about the people who want them." Lily felt something cold settle in her stomach. "I thought they were going to a research facility." "They are. But research facility is a generous term for what's actually a conservation sanctuary." Phala's colors shifted through uncomfortable patterns. "These cubs aren't diplomatic gifts. They're refugees." The word hung in the air like a physical thing. "Refugees from what?" Lily asked quietly. "Poachers." Phala's voice took on harmonics that made Lily's teeth ache. "Flint and Ember are the last of their pack. Their entire bloodline was wiped out 3 months ago. The poachers wanted their bioluminescent glands, their claws, their scales, everything. There's a black market for Rakthi parts that's worth more than most planets' GDP." Lily looked at the cubs, who were watching the conversation with obvious comprehension in their eyes. "They understand you." "Of course they do. Rakthi are highly intelligent. Some estimates put their cognitive capacity on par with Ethi or Pelox." Phala's patterns dimmed. "Which makes what happened to their pack even more horrific." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because the diplomatic paperwork was cover. The fewer people who knew the real reason for transport, the safer Flint and Ember would be." Phala leaned forward slightly. "But someone talked. Someone always talks when there's enough money involved. And now there are at least 3 factions who know these cubs are on this ship." Before Lily could respond, The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Would Passenger Lily please report to the bridge? Repeat, Passenger Lily to the bridge immediately." Flint was on his feet before the announcement finished, his patterns flaring red. Ember moved to flank Lily's other side, both cubs assuming protective positions that were definitely not learned behavior. "That's not good," Lily said. "No," Phala agreed. "It's really not." The bridge of the Prosperity Ring was designed for efficiency rather than comfort. All smooth surfaces and holographic displays that showed everything from engine status to local space traffic. The captain, a Drell named Elixmoth, stood at the center console with his compound eyes focused on something that was making his mandibles click in agitation. He turned when Lily entered, Flint and Ember still flanking her like furry, scaly bodyguards. His eyes tracked to the cubs, and Lily saw him consciously force himself not to back away. "We have a problem," Elixmoth said, his voice coming through the translator with military crispness. "I've been getting that impression," Lily replied. The captain gestured to a holographic display. 3 different communication channels were queued up, all marked as urgent. "In the past hour, we've received demands from a weapons corporation, a rival diplomatic faction, and a group calling itself the Preservation Front. They all want the Rakthi cubs turned over to them." "On what grounds?" "The corporation claims they have a legal contract for xenobiological research. The diplomatic faction insists the cubs were stolen from their custody. And the Preservation Front?" Elixmoth's mandibles clicked harder. "They claim the cubs are too dangerous to exist in civilized space and should be humanely euthanized." Lily felt anger spike through her, hot and immediate. Humanely euthanized. That's rich, coming from people who probably funded the poachers in the first place. "You know about the poaching?" Elixmoth's compound eyes swiveled to Phala, who had followed them to the bridge. "I told her," Phala said simply. "Then you both understand the situation. These parties have significant resources and political influence. If they push hard enough, I may be legally required to turn the cubs over to one of them." "No," Lily said flatly. Elixmoth's mandibles stopped clicking. "Excuse me?" "I said no. You're not turning them over to anyone." Lily crossed her arms, very aware of Flint and Ember pressing against her legs. "Those cubs have been through enough. They're not weapons, they're not political pawns, and they're definitely not getting euthanized because some bigots are scared of them." "I appreciate your conviction," Elixmoth said carefully, "but this isn't a matter of personal preference. There are laws, regulations. Then we follow the laws that protect them instead of the ones that exploit them," Lily interrupted. "They're protected under conservation treaties, right? Endangered species protocols?" Phala's patterns brightened. "She's right. Rakthi are classified as critically endangered. Any attempt to remove them from lawful custody would violate at least 8 different interstellar accords." "Lawful custody?" Elixmoth repeated. "And who currently has lawful custody?" Everyone looked at Lily. "Oh," she said. "Right. I guess that would be me, wouldn't it?" "For the moment," Elixmoth confirmed. "But if any of these parties can prove superior claim—" "Then we make sure they can't," Lily said. She looked down at Flint and Ember, who were watching the conversation with those unsettling, intelligent eyes. "What do you two want? Because as far as I'm concerned, you should have a say in your own future." The bridge went silent. The concept of asking the predators their opinion was apparently revolutionary enough to short-circuit several species' thought processes. Ember moved first, pressing her head against Lily's hand in a gesture that needed no translation. Flint made a sound that rumbled through the deck plates, his patterns glowing steady amber gold. They've chosen, Phala whispered, her voice filled with something like awe. They've claimed pack. Pack? Elixmoth asked. Rakthi pack bonds are sacred. They're genetically hardwired to protect and follow their pack leader. Phala's patterns were cycling through colors Lily had never seen before. It's been decades since Rakthi accepted a non-Rakthi into their family structure. This changes everything legally. How? Lily asked. Because, Phala said, her harmonic voice carrying certainty now. Removing cubs from their pack leader is a violation of their fundamental rights under galactic conservation law. No court would uphold it. No authority would risk it. Elixmoth was quiet for a long moment, his compound eyes studying Lily and the cubs. Finally, his mandibles clicked in what Lily recognized as grudging respect. Then I suggest, he said slowly, that we proceed to the sanctuary and let the lawyers argue about it later, because something tells me this is about to get complicated. From somewhere in the ship's systems, an alarm began to sound. Elixmoth turned to his console, his entire posture shifting to alert. "Captain," one of the crew called out, "we have a vessel approaching. They're hailing us." "Identity?" "Mercenary registration. Flagged to—" The crew member paused. "Flagged to the Weapons Corporation. They're demanding we heave to for inspection." Elixmoth's mandibles clicked rapidly. Of course they are. Lily looked at Flint and Ember, whose patterns had shifted to aggressive red, and thought, this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. The mercenary vessel was an ugly thing, all angles and weapon mounts, the kind of ship that didn't bother with aesthetics because it was designed for one purpose only. It hung in space like a threat, close enough that Lily could see it through the bridge viewports. Elixmoth was doing what captains do when faced with armed mercenaries, stalling with every bureaucratic procedure he could think of. "We're a registered passenger vessel under Drell Commercial Authority," he was saying into the communications channel. "You have no jurisdiction to board us without proper authorization from—" "We have authorization," a voice interrupted, coming through with the kind of confidence that suggested they'd paid a lot of money for that authorization. "Commercial Transport Protocols, subsection 82, paragraph 16, inspection of hazardous cargo in transit." "The cargo in question is not hazardous," Elixmoth countered. "It's living beings under diplomatic protection." "Living weapons," the voice corrected. "And our contract supersedes diplomatic niceties." Lily moved closer to the communications console. "Who am I talking to?" There was a pause, then, "This doesn't concern human freight coordinators." "It does when the freight coordinator has custody of what you're trying to steal," Lily said. "Name. Now." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Mordkith, captain of the vessel Profit Margin. And I'm not stealing anything. I'm reclaiming corporate property." "Property," Lily repeated, her voice flat. "You mean living, breathing, intelligent creatures who have names and feelings and definitely don't belong to your corporation?" "I mean assets that were purchased under legally binding contract. Assets that your diplomatic friend tried to smuggle past customs." Phala made a sound like shattering crystal. "That contract was nullified when your corporation violated ethical research guidelines. The cubs were seized under conservation authority." "Interesting interpretation," Mordkith said. "My lawyers disagree. Now, Captain Elixmoth, you can either allow us to board peacefully, or we can disable your engines and board anyway. Your choice." Lily saw Elixmoth's mandibles click in frustration. The captain looked at her, then at the cubs who were now fully alert, their patterns cycling through aggressive reds and oranges. If I refuse, Elix Moth said slowly, they'll fire on a passenger vessel. If I comply, I'm condemning 2 endangered creatures to corporate experimentation. Third option, Lily said. You let them board, and I handle it. Handle it how? I'm working on that part, Lily admitted. Flint made a sound that rumbled through the deck, and Lily looked down to find both cubs staring at her with those unsettling, intelligent eyes. Their patterns had shifted to something she hadn't seen before. Eye, deep, steady blue that pulsed in time with what might have been their heartbeats. They're trusting you, Phala whispered. That color means absolute trust. Pack trust. Great, Lily muttered. No pressure. Elix Moth was still waiting for an answer. Around the bridge, his crew watched with the kind of tension that suggested they were all calculating survival odds and not liking the results. Let them board, Lily said finally, but make them come to us. Make them walk through a passenger liner full of witnesses. Make them explain to everyone here exactly what they're doing. The captain's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. He opened the communications channel. You may dock and board, Mordkith, but you'll follow standard boarding protocols. No weapons, no intimidation, and you'll present your documentation to our passengers and crew. We don't answer to your passengers. You do if you want to board my ship, Elix Moth said, his voice taking on an edge that reminded Lily that Drell hadn't become the galaxy's primary administrators by being pushovers. Those are my terms. Take them, or take your chances, explaining to your corporate masters why you opened fire on a civilian vessel over a contract dispute. There was a long silence. Then, fine. We'll dock in 10 minutes. The channel closed. Lily took a deep breath. Right. Time to make some very bad people very uncomfortable. 10 minutes later, Lily stood in the main passenger lounge with Flint and Ember at her sides, and what looked like half the ship's passengers forming a loose circle around them. Word had spread fast, and apparently the combination of human adopts predators and corporate mercenaries try kidnapping was entertaining enough that people were willing to risk proximity to Rakthi cubs. When Mordkith entered with his security detail, he was exactly what Lily expected. A scarred Pelox with 3 functional arms, the 4th ending in what looked like a weapon mount. His skin was mottled with old injuries, and his eyes had the flat, calculating look of someone who'd done terrible things and lost sleep over exactly none of them. He stopped when he saw the crowd. His security detail, 4 heavily armed individuals of various species, fanned out behind him but kept their weapons lowered. At least they understood optics. This is unnecessary theater, Mordkith said, his 4 arms spreading in a gesture that might have been conciliatory if not for the threat in his posture. This is transparency, Lily countered. You want to take these cubs? You can explain why, in front of everyone here. Mordkith's eyes tracked to Flint and Ember, and Lily saw something flicker across his face. Not fear, exactly, but definitely calculation. The cubs had their patterns locked on aggressive red, and they were positioned in a way that suggested they knew exactly what a threat looked like. The cubs are corporate property, Mordkith said, pulling up a data pad. Purchased legally from licensed breeders, assigned to our research division for study of apex predator neural patterns. Your diplomatic friend here stole them during a facility transfer. The facility was conducting illegal experiments, Phala said, her voice carrying through the lounge with crystal clarity. Experiments that violated every ethical guideline in the conservation accords. The cubs were seized, not stolen. According to whose authority? According to mine, a new voice said. Everyone turned. An older human woman had entered the lounge, flanked by two individuals in what Lily recognized as Interstellar Conservation Authority uniforms. The woman was small, gray-haired, and had the look of someone who'd spent a lifetime wrestling bureaucracy into submission. "Who?" Mordkith said slowly. "Are you?" "Dr. Patricia Roth," the woman said, "Director of the Rakthi Conservation Project. And before you ask, yes, I have jurisdiction here." She pulled up her own datapad and flicked something toward Mordkith's device. "That's the seizure order for Flint and Ember, signed by 3 different conservation boards and backed by interstellar treaty. Your corporate contract was nullified the moment your research facility violated protocol." Mordkith stared at the document, and Lily watched his posture shift from confident to cornered. "This doesn't change anything. We have buyers waiting. We have obligations." "You have nothing," Dr. Roth interrupted, "except maybe a lawsuit for attempting to board a civilian vessel under false pretenses." "The Cubs are dangerous," Mordkith tried, shifting tactics. "They're apex predators. They can't be safely maintained in civilian custody." "Funny," Lily said. "They seem pretty safe to me." As if to emphasize her point, Ember yawned, displaying teeth that could shred steel, then settled down and rested her head on Lily's boot. Flint remained alert, but his patterns had shifted from aggressive red to a calmer orange. The lounge was silent. Then someone laughed. A human passenger, probably, because only humans would find the situation funny. But the laughter spread, nervous at first, then more genuine as the absurdity of the moment settled in. Mordkith looked around the lounge, at the witnesses, at the conservation officials, at the 2 Rakthi cubs who were currently demonstrating that they were marginally less dangerous than a pair of lazy house cats. His arms lowered. "This isn't over," he said finally. "Yes," Dr. Roth said pleasantly, "it is. And if you or your corporation attempt any further contact with these cubs, I will personally ensure that every conservation organization in the galaxy knows exactly what your research facility was doing. Now get off this ship." Mordkith stared at her for a long moment, then turned and left, his security detail following. The lounge remained quiet until the airlock sealed, then erupted in conversation. Dr. Roth approached Lily, studying her with sharp eyes. "You're the freight coordinator who somehow managed to pack bond with Rakthi juveniles." "That's me," Lily said, "though it wasn't exactly planned. Nothing worth doing ever is." The doctor looked at Flint and Ember, her expression softening. "They've chosen you. That's rare. Unprecedented, really, for a human." "So I've heard. What happens now?" "Now," Dr. Roth smiled. "Now we have a conversation about your future employment. The sanctuary needs field coordinators, people who can transport and monitor conservation sites across the sector. People who aren't terrified of the wildlife." "I'm a freight coordinator," Lily pointed out. "I move cargo, not endangered species." "You just transported 2 critically endangered Rakthi cubs through 3 station jumps and fought off corporate mercenaries. I'd say you're qualified." Dr. Roth pulled up her datapad. "The position comes with housing, benefits, and the ability to keep Flint and Ember with you. They'll need training, socialization, and eventually they'll help rebuild their species. But they won't do any of that without their pack leader." Lily looked down at the cubs. Ember had fallen asleep on her boot. Flint was watching her with those intelligent eyes, patterns glowing a steady, trusting gold. "My freight job was getting boring anyway," Lily said finally. 3 months later, Lily was back at Meridian Gate, now with proper documentation that identified her as a field coordinator for the Rakthi Conservation Project and listed Flint and Ember as authorized travel companions. The cubs had grown, not quite adults, but definitely not juveniles anymore, and their training had progressed to the point where they could navigate station environments without causing mass panic. Mostly. Oremdesh saw her coming through the security checkpoint and didn't even bother calling for backup. He just sighed, all four arms drooping in resignation, and waved her through. "No incidents this time?" he asked hopefully. "Define incidents," Lily said. "Please don't." A human passenger in line behind her called out, "Hey, how'd you end up with space raptors?" Lily glanced back, saw the mix of fear and fascination in the crowd, and shrugged. They needed someone who wasn't afraid of them. Turns out, humans are pretty good at that. Flint and Ember flanked her as she walked toward her gate, their patterns glowing steady gold. And somewhere behind her, Lily heard the human passenger say, "I want space raptors." "No, you don't," another voice replied. "I really do." Lily smiled and kept walking. The galaxy was a strange place, full of species who saw monsters where humans saw creatures that just needed understanding. It was a good thing, really, that Earth had spent millennia befriending wolves and riding horses and generally deciding that the best response to dangerous animals was, "But what if they liked us?" Because sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe wasn't technology or weapons or even diplomacy. Sometimes it was just knowing when to say enough and mean it. And sometimes it was recognizing that every creature, no matter how dangerous, just wanted to belong somewhere. Flint made a questioning sound, and Lily reached down to scratch behind his auditory ridge. "Yeah," she said, "we're going home." And they were.